Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. So, for those who perhaps haven't come across your book, haven't come across you within the yoga space, I would love for you just to introduce yourself in any way that you see fit today.
First and foremost, my name is Donna Noble, and I've been teaching yoga since about 2011, I think, 2010, 2011. I've been practicing in the late 1990s. And I got into it because a friend of mine saw a picture of Madonna, and she was very much into celebrity trends at the time. And she said, Madonna looks really good. Why don't we give it a go? And I was lucky enough, Megan, to have a colleague that was training to be a yoga teacher when I was working in the corporate world. And so we became her guinea pigs and still didn't realize how impactful, how transformational yoga was going to be for me. And basically did it and fell out of love with it, did my master's degree, came back to it. I thought I worked for a company where they introduced yoga and I was hooked once again. And then a friend of mine many years later said, Donna, why don't you have a plan B? And I thought, why should I have a plan B? I'm like, plan A, the house, the car, the job, all those things. And we used to be in IT, so studying was very much at the forefront of what I did. And I thought, you know what, I like yoga. So what I'll do a course or a teacher training. And when I retire, if I become bored, at least I've got that skill. So that was how far removed yoga was going to be on my radar at that point. Yoga became a major part after I became ill with Bell's palsy. It allowed me to heal because it allowed me to slow down, become more self-aware and realize that the life I was living wasn't in alignment with what I wanted. And so I was in the process of being made redundant. And I thought, you know what, I was into hot yoga at the time. And I think Bikram yoga was what got me out of corporate because the only class that got me on a mat in a studio at 6:30 a.m. I feel like I died on the mat and then I'd be reborn. I could go and do all the crap that the corporate had to give me. And I still didn't even consider yoga at that point, Megan. It was only when I was doing a master NLP practitioner course. So that's where I think my interest with the brain, how people worked in its most basic form, came about. When I was there, someone said, what's going on with this? I said, I've got to apply for a job in my company, but I'm not qualified for them because my role's completely gone. And I still know what to do. They said, when you speak about yoga, when you speak about corporate, you don't. And in that instant, I thought, okay, I'll finish the current teacher training that I'm doing. That was with Try Yoga. But what I'll do is go to LA as soon as I can and do the Bikram training because it was the hot yoga at the time, pun intended. So I went off, Megan, and was supposed to only be there for 9 weeks. I end up staying for 6 months. The path began to unfold organically. And the more I lent into that and I trusted it, the more I began to find my way and traveled around America, came back to London, and then began to see that there were certain people missing from the yoga space. With me healing myself with those ports, I think that's when I began to become body positive because I then saw how the yoga was helped me to heal, how I gave the body what it wanted, and it began to heal organically. So I wanted to share that with everybody. And then I read an article by a journalist called Deborah Coughlin. Her experience of yoga was terrible. She went to the class, the teachers ignored her, and the other practitioners stared at her, basically. She didn't feel welcome at all. I talked about that article for months, and my friends were like, well, Donna, shut up or do something about it. And then I created Curse on Yoga. And that was 2011. If it wasn't for that path, I wouldn't be speaking to you now because I'd still be in a corporate job. I've done well in this world. I've written a book. I've traveled, I teach teachers now, and I'm all about diversity and inclusion. And my main goal now, or purpose, is to disrupt the yoga and wellbeing space, because everyone's right is to have health and well-being. Unfortunately, this space is not like that. I tried to create what I'd like to see and to share my experiences and encourage others to experience the great gift of yoga, because it's transformed my life. It's transformed so many of my students' lives as well. More people need it, and need it right now, especially what we're going through around the world. Man, we really do need yoga.
Absolutely. And I have 1,000 questions and comments on everything you just said. I love how Bikram and the whole hot yoga era, I'm just taking myself back 15 years, because like I was saying before we started recording, Bikram was, I did it religiously every day. And, I loved hot yoga. And for me, I think the Bikram thing, it was, there was enough action and power within it that it felt like kind of me in my heightened corporate state.
Yeah.
I could get on board with that. But over time, I was, like you were saying, drawn towards the slowing down. I was drawn towards the yin. It took time.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I wouldn't have gone straight to a yin class time.
Yeah.
To lie that, no way. So it was very much a trajectory, I guess, that I took.
I think it has been for all of us, because I was so purist in those days. I don't need heat to warm my body up, because I'd come from the vinyasa hatha background. So it took a long time for me to even consider going in the heat. It's only when the student came to Bikram, I think it was, a friend of mine told me it was like £30 for 30 days. I said, you need to go. And I went and I did everything wrong. I had a hangover. If I'd gone for the 10 o'clock class, I'd have killed over in that room. So I got there at 5 o'clock. I had the strictest teacher ever, Paul Dobson. He loved the heat and he wouldn't open the door. Hadn't drunk any water, had a hangover. But I loved it. And I remember the reason why it resonated with me so deeply, I loved the heat anyway, but going into Eagle, I could never get my right foot to wrap around completely. But the first Bikram class, it did it. And I thought, oh my God, this heat is working wonders for my body. And then I was hooked. And it got me out of corporate, because it was the only thing that I'd leave work for on time to get across town to Bikram to get that 6 p.m. or 6:30 class in the evening.
Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those 3 little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review, or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode. I wanted to ask you, Donna, because you talk about disrupting wellness, which I love. And you talk about redefining wellness for everybody. But I feel personally like the wellness industry really missells what being well means. And as someone that's been in this wellness space or yoga space for the past couple of decades, I wanted to ask you, how do you define being well, or what does it mean to you?
So being well, for me, means that I'm in alignment. I listen to my body. The wellness industry is trying to define what wellness is. So you've got to be a certain shape, a certain size. And we can't define wellness. Wellness and health and weight are becoming conflated. And that's so wrong. The fact that somebody may look curvy and they have a chip in their hand and someone's trying to police them because they say you're overweight. And they usually measure like BMI. That's so wrong. It's an antiquated way to measure. But you can't tell someone's health status by looking at them. But everyone can define their own wellness for themselves, because we just don't know if someone's got the ability to do the things that we define as wellness. But I think as long as you feel happy and there's no underlying health issues and you're addressing those, that's wellness. Wellness can be me just lying on my mountain Savasana, being at peace. That to me is being well. You can eat all the healthy food, Megan, but if you're not healthy or well mentally, what does all the other stuff mean? Because a lot of people define wellness based on what they eat, what they drink, but they forget about the mental. What's going on?
And I love what you've drawn attention to there of actually, the wellness industry putting a definition upon people of what wellness is, as opposed to really defining that uniquely, subjectively for ourselves.
Yeah, because our bodies, Megan, knows what we need. And if we listen to the body, like a key point for me in knowing that, when I went to the training in Bikram, we had to stay in a hotel, so we couldn't eat properly all the time. And someone just said, just give your body what it wants. Your body will tell you what it wants. If you're deficient in something, it'll tell you what it wants. And every time after class, Megan, I'd have to have a litre of Coke. Because I was deficient in some things. My body got it where it needed it. And as soon as I left the environment and had started to resume healthy eating, that craving went. So everyone's health can be defined differently. We just don't know that. Everyone can find their own health. Having to worry about counting calories, and that's not healthy. You're going to stress mode.
And what comes up for me there, and I've heard you talk about this before, is when you're leading classes, the invitations that you give people to actually listen to their own body, as opposed to doing what we think we should be doing, or being in the perfect expression or the advanced expression of the pose. But actually, you saying to people, if you need to lie down, if you need to sit down, if you need to take a pause, listen to your body. Do you feel like yoga was a really big initiation into listening to your body for you?
Yeah, I think so. But also with the NLP stuff, I started to listen, and some of the practice I do, like the 3 principles of mindful and consciousness. So starting to move from outside to inside. But yoga really was key to that, because the mind-body connection, starting to listen to the body, hearing or feeling the sensation. Like, what the hell's going on here? What is my body trying to tell me? So finding that stillness, because like you, Megan, I think I've got no time for Savasana, up after class and out.
Oh yeah, I'm out the door. When they say at the end of Bikram, try and stay for another couple of minutes, I was off.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I started my teaching journey, I began to realize more, because you could see people fidgeting because they can't be still for those 2 minutes, and they're starting to go out there. And that's why I'm so keen to come back, because the body is trying to talk to you all the time. My body gave me signals. So that's what I try and impart in my classes. When people do, I don't know, Megan, I used to teach at London Bridge. It's a massive studio, 90 people, I think, is the capacity there. And everyone's fidgeting, Megan, at the beginning. They're, you're doing half moon pose and they're not in sync. And then what I used to do was ground them first of all before they got in there. And Bikram's a hard one to bring people in the moment, because they know what's coming. So they're ahead of you. They're ahead of you. And then I have to stop them and say, listen, I'm here guiding you. There's no point in me being here. If you're like this, where you've got someone to guide you, what are you like in your everyday life? You relate it to what they're doing. You're in the future, and the future's not guaranteed. So enjoy the moment. Or I'd say, it's the 8 o'clock class, but you're in the 10 o'clock class. You're not here with me. And then slowly they become aware and they slow down. And when you see the class move as one, Megan, it's the most powerful thing you can witness. And the energy that comes from everyone moving as one, which is the purpose of yoga, the goal, union.
Absolutely. A question that arose for me also was, I love what you were saying, that the yoga landscape has changed quite a bit in the time that you've been a teacher, but there is a lot more to come in terms of change that is required. I would love for you to share what change you feel like you have witnessed in the 15 years or so of teaching yoga.
What's been offered, number one, because when I started, I didn't know about chair yoga. There was no chair yoga. I really like, chair yoga, what's that? So there's bed yoga. So the styles of yoga that are coming. So there's some that are really gimmicky. You've got, is it gin and tonic yoga? And it's like, what type thing? Disco yoga. But you've got more accessible offerings in that respect. That's what I've seen change. And when I first started, Megan, I think yoga was more diverse for me, because I wasn't in the mainstream studio. So the teachers I had access to were more diverse. It's when I started to go into the mainstream studios that I began to see that, it's maybe not as inclusive as I thought it was. One of the few people of color, and I'm the teacher leading spaces, but I can go to places like the Yom Yoga show and I can see more diversity in terms of teachers, but also practitioners that I didn't see as well. And that I've now found a community, or a number of communities, that are actively trying to make yoga more accessible, because we can see that it's changed from being something that we all did. I can't remember when I did yoga at Bikram, £30 for 30 days, so £1 a day. So that was accessible. But now £29 for a single class, you know. So the cost of it as well, and the imagery. When I was doing yoga, I used to rock up the Bikram in Nike shorts and a t-shirt, but now £100+ per pair of leggings, you know, the cost of things. But yoga's become like a trend where it wasn't that. When I started that, it was something that people like look at you strangely, like, what's yoga? It's something that's out there, alternative that no one was doing. So those are the changes that I've seen as well. And what I've seen now is also that a lot more people are beginning to realize, based on evidence, that doctors now are prescribing yoga as prevention for health conditions that potentially could arise. And also places like the Minded Institute that share a lot of evidence about what yoga can do, all the benefits. And but unfortunately, we've seen that yoga's become conflated with fitness. It started out as maybe physical, but we're losing some of the 8 limbs of yoga. A lot of people aren't seeing that. So if someone will come to my class that, oh, all those benefits that you say about yoga, I don't experience them, because they've obviously been going to a class where it's just been getting into postures, getting that, and that's it. There's been no talk about the breath being key, or how you've been given the skills or the tools that you can take into your everyday life to see the benefits of it. Those are the things I've seen, but I'm heartened to see that it is changing. We've got a long way to go, because what we're seeing now, yoga is trendy. You know, there's so many more people practicing yoga, but they're not getting the full benefits. My friend calls the flexibility and things like that as side benefits, but the main benefits of yoga was connection. It's about basically connecting with yourself and then with your community. Yoga is political because it can bring about change, but you don't see that when you look on Instagram. You don't see a lot of people say yoga's political. You see somebody that's young, slim, able-bodied, beach in Bali, with their leg behind their head in bird of paradise pose. And how can that be inspirational to those that can't even touch their toes? I can't, there's no way I can even think about doing that. So I would never go and put myself in that scenario. But I'm so glad to see that there's so many of us around the world now that are trying to make yoga more inclusive, more accessible. And there's so many more books out there. And there are a lot more practitioners that are becoming teachers that truly want to make it inclusive.
A question comes up for me, Donna, of you being a pioneer of improving accessibility within the wellness, within the yoga space. How do you feel about those of us promoting accessibility who are a bit late to the party, maybe? What I mean by that, and I suppose maybe there are 2 sides to this, but when I go back to the beginning of my teaching yoga, being in the wellness space, there was so much that I just took for granted. I was age 25, wandering around in my crop tops and my Nike high tops, teaching power yoga, not being accessible, not being inclusive. And it's only really been in the last few years, I've been studying trauma therapy with Gabor Mate's organization, Compassionate Inquiry. There's so much in there around systemic challenges within therapy and trauma awareness. Speaking about racial injustice, social injustice, systemic issues that really impact people's lives, that have made me look at wellness in a totally different way. And I'm a recovering love and lighter and all of these things. By my own, admission, I realized that not only was I operating within an echo chamber of wellness, where I looked around and was just like, God, everyone looks and sounds like me. I was like, fuck, as a, blonde, able-bodied, cisgender white person, I am the echo chamber. So, it's only really been in the last few years that I've really started to go deep into, okay, we need accessibility, inclusivity, and diversity within this space. How is it for you, having been advocating for this stuff for so long, that now everybody's starting to come to the party?
Yeah, it makes me laugh. I didn't intentionally set out to be inclusive. But I just thought that there were certain people that would come into it, and I just want to share what I'd gone through. Yoga is a gift. And if someone's genuine about why they're doing it, not everyone will have the same, the moment of epiphany that, I'm not what I'm doing, I'm part of this problem. So how can I change it? Thanks for calling that out. I didn't even think I was a pioneer. I was just out there doing it. I saw something that needed to change. Now that you're a pioneer, maybe I am, but doing something about it. And I'd say to anyone, if you have privilege, look at how you use that privilege, because you may see that privilege for people that don't have it. So it's what you do with it. That if your intention for inclusion is to be trendy and there's a market out there, because the market's saturated, that I can reach a few more if I do that, then I don't agree with that at all. What I love is people that have been following me for a long time and said, Donna, you were advocating for us long before it became trendy. So, and that's fine. And teachers that come to my offerings, because I do offer, training on inclusion, diversity. But what annoys me is those that have come to the table late and then they try to have inclusion on their terms. So I say, if you say you're accessible and inclusive, it should be for everybody. But when you've got size inclusive, it's like, what's that mean? With size inclusion coverage, it should be for everyone. If you're inclusive, it's for everybody. And there's training you can do. So are you being lazy by focusing on that? If someone's not a certain size, does it mean that as a teacher, you're saying, I can't come to your offering by doing that? Is it a cop-out? Is it because you don't want to learn all the other aspects of yoga? So I welcome anyone that wants to make everything more inclusive, and you use your voice as an ally for me, maybe other teachers, but also for your practitioners, and you're here to be the change you want to see, then I applaud you for doing that. But there's a lot you can see. I go on social media, I laugh every once in a while. A lot of studios had diversity and inclusion as part of their training. And now it's no longer trending to a degree, but where is it? It's like now they're not afraid of being called out. So it's like, okay, so it's a tick box exercise. If I see it as that, then I just thinking, why am I surprised? There's times where things happen and people are surprised. And it's like, I'm not surprised, because you could see that it wasn't genuine from the outset. You can kind of tell in that respect. And it's so nice now to have others that are in this community that may be long established that I can work with and who inspire me and inspire the work that I do. And even if they weren't there, it's my calling to do it. It's almost like writing these books. I see something, you see something, you address it. So whether it's yoga, whatever, I address it. Hearing why people aren't coming, people need something. And the benefits of yoga, it can help with some of the things you said, like to deal with microaggressions. It helped me in my corporate world. It helps me now to realize, we say in yoga, let it go. And it teaches me what to let go. But it also allows me to pick my battles as well. And it's giving me a platform, but also a voice that I can speak out about things that I see that others may not, in the hope that an ally or someone else may take it on board and maybe go out there and change that.
I love what you said there. I have a voice. And I wrote it down, actually, that I was reading what Susanna Barkataki said about your book. And she picked out this sentence, which was, as teachers, you have a voice that is able to create yoga's future.
Yes.
Can you speak to this? I'll just put something else in here that I always say to my podcast listeners, that they're not here to passively consume, but to be ambassadors for change. And I really do feel that this is the invitation to us as practitioners. So I'd love for you to speak to this. As teachers, you have a voice.
Yeah, so I think I speak to in my book a little bit as well. But what I say is that, for instance, we're on social media, and social media is a marketing tool. And it's showing a lot of imagery. But we as teachers can use our platforms to disrupt that. So instead of showing I keep using bird of paradise. I don't know why I love it. But instead of showing bird of paradise, why not show child's pose, in the hope that it'll inspire others to do so? Because if you do that on the yoga mat, what else in your everyday life you think, oh, I can't do it? You might think, stop it, let me give it a go. And that's how change begins. We can speak. If we are going to be a teacher at a festival, we can look at the lineup and think, where's the diversity? Maybe speak to the organizers. So we can maybe bring someone through. I've had friends that post George Floyd. A lot of magazines were wanting to write articles. And one of my friends and ex-students at the time approached her and said, no, I'd love for you to reach out to Donna Noble because she has things she has to say. So she gave me the chance. Another friend of mine was working for a company, and I think she was being given another class, and it was for Afro-Caribbean club. And she actually said, you know what, I think a teacher of colour will be better suited to teach that class. And she reached out to me, and I'm still teaching that class now. And it's just such a powerful thing. That's how we can change the status quo. It doesn't matter how small it is. You don't know what the impact of that thought or that speaking out for somebody else can do. That's how we can do the change. Be the change you want to see. What do they mean by that? Just by doing what feels right, what comes from your heart. If you come from your heart, you won't intentionally do any wrong. Think about your motivations for doing it. And that's how we can disrupt it. Like me, I hide sometimes. And it's like, you need to get out there, share what you think. And don't worry about metrics or who's going to like it. You'll find who will like and who will agree with you what to say. And that's how you make the change. Yesterday, I gave a speech about coming from the inside out. And I mentioned a specific book. I had 4 people say they're going to buy the book. And unintentionally, that's an influence that one had there. So you never know how you may invite change from somebody and maybe change their perspective. So you change them, and then by them changing, people look at them and say, oh, look at Megan. Megan's really changed. What's going on with Megan? She's really calmer and whatever. What's she doing? Oh, yoga. Let me give it a go. And that's the ripple effect that happens.
I love that. There was a festival that happened last year where I looked at the theme of the festival and who they were featuring. And I was like, there's no diversity here, even though they're talking about diversity. That's not what I see. I sent them a message and I felt like I was trolling, because I was like, have you thought about, I'm curious, the thinking process is here. But it was interesting because with the organizer, we actually had a coffee, and she was like, thank you so much for bringing this up, because you're completely right. And we're going to be changing this going forward. And it was really validating from the perspective of thinking about these small things that we can do to impact change.
Yeah. And that's so true, because all these, these individuals that have, pioneered large changes, but I'm sure they started with different ones, and then it's maybe just grown from there. So not be afraid, but come from the heart. I always say to teachers, go back to your why. If you go back to your why, then you get the answer. Every once in a while, I think, I don't really want to do this, because sometimes it's really hard. But I go back to my why. I can teach for Fearne Cotton one day, then had to go teach for my local community class. It was so fulfilling to have body positive yoga out there for everybody, which is what I say, yoga for everyone. So I can teach to anybody and make everyone welcome. But to go to a class where someone who wouldn't think yoga's for them, through GP referral, they come, they love it. It's so amazing. And I teach aqua yoga, and at the very end I get them to float, but I can't swim. I give them noodles and they float. When you see their faces, they're so blissed out. When you get someone say at the end, I thought yoga's for rich people, that's my why, to show that it's for them too. When they describe yoga in their own words and say, I sleep better, or I'm in less pain, they get it. They don't see all the hype and advertising. They tell you in their own raw way what it gives them. And that's my why. I still want to champion this, because we still have a long way to go. But it's changed. I have to give props that it is starting to change. And I've got friends out there that are actively making change. You've got yoga therapy now. Yoga for so many different things. I love, because every time I do yoga, like you, Megan, we were doing yoga all the time. Whatever we were going through, the yoga was helping us anyway. But now they've been so departmentalized, yoga for menopause and whenever specialized. But when you do yoga, hopefully it's doing all of that naturally for us.
Everything that you're speaking to here, and you mentioned it even earlier in the podcast, that wellness is political. I know this to be true, having gone down the rabbit hole of looking at all of the systems that are barriers within wellness. What I see within the wellness industry, and what I hear from a lot of teachers or practitioners, facilitators within space, is this, oh, well, I'm not political, or, wellness is separate from politics. I mean, you must have come across it. People seeing them, the whole kind of, I guess, the love and light of, oh, things that happen in the world is low vibrational. I'm going to stay away from that type thing, which I could say a lot about. But I would love for you to speak to that. How do you see the role of yoga in regards to collective change?
Yoga is, do you know what ahimsa means?
Yes, the first limb, non-violence.
Non-violence. So how can yoga not be political if it's saying that we shouldn't perpetuate violence? So if you see, say for instance, you're teaching a class, maybe I'm in the class and I'm being racially abused, would you walk away? You then would intervene. So you maybe correct that person to let them know why what they're saying or doing is not good, basically. So there's things like that, but also how you can go out there and disrupt the system, like, you know, calling those things out or sharing things that are perpetuating wars or groups of people that aren't privileged. And, you know, that's where it comes in, you know, going on marches. How can we change the world if all we do, Megan, is go on the yoga mat, I'm going to use Bikram again, do the 26 and 2 and leave and go home? How is that helping with collective change? Megan, you bring everyone together and it's inclusive. You'll get to know about different people, different cultures. You see people at an individual level as opposed to a level where the stereotypes can come in. If you see those things and it don't feel right with you, then you're going to be political. You'll do something. Just like you said, you spoke to the founder of that festival. So by bringing in diversity, their practitioners will have access to teachers that they may never have to. And I hear so often as well, no, I don't, I live in an area where there's a lack of diversity. But you've got social media. So you can follow teachers that are diverse and see what they're talking about and see how they're using yoga to call out things they don't believe in, things that are wrong. Because, you know, love and light, and, you know, I don't see, I don't see color. I can understand that one, but it's like, if you don't see color, that means you can't see me because I have a different lived experience to you. And you're refusing to acknowledge that. You know, and then to see how Gandhi used non-violence as politics. Yoga is the same. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita and there's a scene where there's conflict on the battlefield, that's a war. And we have battles every single day in our life. These teachings help us deal with those battles and go out in the world and be better human beings. That's what yoga gives us. Yoga gives us the 8 limbs, the way in which we can live life in the way where we create union with everybody. That's at its core. And if you think yoga's not political, that's a nice privilege to have. You can go home absolutely at night and nothing's bothering you. So yeah, you're living only one part of yoga. And if you've done a training and you understand ahimsa, then you understand why yoga's got to be political.
I guess if you're not willing to look past your own lived experience to understand the barriers or the challenges with which people are turning up to the mat or going out into the wide world with, then you not being able to hold space for that makes you an unsafe teacher for a vast majority of people.
Exactly. That means individuals aren't willing to unlearn. My TT was very westernized, but I've done a trauma-informed one where it was very, they had indigenous teachers and there was so much richness to it and more knowledge. I can appreciate so much more of what I can then give. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes. I still make mistakes even now. Because things evolve, the language we use, you know, guys is one. How many people use the word guys in a class? It's not a good term because it's got masculine connotations. And what's so hard about it is that you come out of a yoga space and everywhere you go, hi guys, you know, it's there around you all the time. But if we can be that change, maybe we can start getting it out there so people realize why it's not an appropriate term, but then they're not doing that. So all I could say is go back to your why, but yoga has politics, social justice at its core.
And it's another thing that comes up for me too, is when we are asking the questions of, okay, why aren't there these types of people in my space, whether that's to do with race, whether that's to do with socioeconomic factors, whether that's to do with ableist factors, when we're looking at who comes to our spaces and asking the questions of, well, why are X people not in my space? surely the answers generally demand that you look in the direction of politics, socioeconomic factors, and those being the blocks and the challenges. So for me, when we are asking questions around inclusion and diversity, wellness can't not be political.
Yeah, exactly, because then it's just perpetuating every other system we've got, where people are excluded and they have to go elsewhere to find it. And wellness should be everyone's birthright. Everyone should have access to that. It's a fundamental thing. And that's what we need to look at.
A friend asked me this question, which I'd love to ask you. We talk about the affluence gap with people not coming to classes or not coming to studios, as we said, because it costs £15, costs £29, whatever it is. But what we perhaps don't bring attention to is the affluence gap with teachers as well, because it can be quite challenging to make a full-time career from being a yoga teacher. It perhaps invites a certain type of person from a certain socioeconomic group who is of privilege, who has passive income, backup, whatever it is, to become teachers. But then there are people from other socioeconomic groups who don't become teachers. How do we reconcile that as well for teachers, not just people coming to classes?
So we need to look at that a lot more, because the market's really, really oversaturated. And I've got friends that, they're finding it hard to make a living. And a lot of teachers now are giving up or having to substitute that. Fortunately for me, I came from a corporate background, so I didn't have that issue with money, because, teachers don't want to really charge for their time. And a lot of people abuse that as well, unfortunately. But there's ways in which teachers can supplement their income, because they can get funding from local authorities. There's grants out there. So what you can do is you can charge as little as possible or offer it for free to the community, but the government will, or the authority will pay you, so you can get an income from that as well. And also what teachers with privilege can do is, if they have teacher trainings, they can either subsidize the training for individuals in those groups, who can then go back into the community and offer the training as well. Or what we sometimes see is pay it forward, where if you are affluent and you can pay it forward for a place for someone else to have training, that's the way we can do it. And work with organizations to sponsor. You're not saying for everyone to give their time for free, but there are ways in which we can do so. And what we need to do as teachers, though, is to start valuing yourself and charging your worth. Because if we don't, that's why the other day I looked at an invoice that I had from 2012, and some teachers now are earning less than that.
Wow.
Yeah. So there is a bit, because there's so many more teachers now, because I may say no to a job, but someone else who's keen will teach that. We need to come together. There's now a yoga union to help address that, because there are some studios that are unethical and will keep the salaries down, but they're charging so much to their client base, but it's not being reflected in teacher salary. And the teachers are the most important thing. Without teachers, there's no yogas. But we for some reason, in the States, I think teachers are slightly more respected for what they do, but in the UK, it's not as mature. There's not as much respect there. And I don't know if that is reflected in how we get paid. And I know there's people been calling it out. There's like Norman Blair, he's an advocate to call out these type of things. And we've got the yoga union now, and they're tackling certain studios to bring their salaries into alignment, because it's not cheap at all. But when you think about it, I used to just think about what I got paid, but not the traveling time. And then you have to come 15 minutes before. If I looked at all that, I would have stopped teaching a long time ago, especially coming from a corporate background. It wouldn't have been a viable thing to do. But because I loved it, I just said, okay, I get this per hour. And then what I've done is skilled myself enough that I can charge our value, charge our worth. And that's how we can do it. And there's a studio in London as well. They've stopped offering teacher trainings, because they're honouring the teachers that have come through. They're not offering more. Where are they going to teach? Unfortunately, what we found has happened when I did my TT, especially Bikram, you had to go to LA twice a year. But then in the UK, as yoga's become more popular around the world, you've got studios now offering their own TT. So you might have a 50, 20 at any one time in London, because everyone's offering, because it's a way to make money. And no one's being ethical to think, well, where are all these teachers going to go?
Yeah.
And then we're losing the teachers with the skill sets. And I know teachers have been penalised. So I was speaking to a friend back in the day, you know, there were teachers, there was a hierarchy, and there were those that were up there earning a lot of money. And it's like, but now that's not the case anymore. You may get a wage based on your experience, but it's nowhere like it was before. They really did take that because they have the pick of everyone out there to do it. Unfortunately, students don't know about the quality of teachers, because I've been teaching for over 10 years, that you may have some in the room that's only been teaching 10 months, and that no one's thinking there's any value in that. They just want to, it's about profit. And that's what's happened with yoga. It's become about profit, because you've got the big boys coming in, you've got the investors coming in, where at the back end of the day, it's more about the profits. Exactly there. So I say to anyone like that, but if you've got the privilege, see how you can use that privilege for others that aren't able to teach full time. So I think there's enough for everyone, but unfortunately, there's a pool of practitioners that people are going after.
Makes so much sense. And, you know, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that yoga starts out as a disruptive, radicalizing modality to kind of disrupt other parts of society, but then we're having to radicalize and disrupt the yoga industry.
And I suppose it just shows the evolution of yoga. So yoga will always evolve, but the fundamentals will be around for many, many thousands of years, long after I've gone. And I think that's the beauty. It will always be there, but it's the way in which it's there that more and more people are coming in and realizing. I think as you come on the journey, like yourself and me, then you start to teach the eight limbs, not the one limb, the asana that gets perpetuated as being like the picture boy or girl of yoga.
We're running out of time, Donna, and I've got thousands of other questions that I want to ask you, but we will just start wrapping up. But I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. I just wanted to invite you to, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about your new book yet. If not, I'm going to edit this out. But yeah, just around the demystification of yoga, I'd love for you to introduce that and how people can get in touch with you.
So I'm currently writing book number 2, because I still see there's a need to make yoga still even more accessible and inclusive. But what I've seen is there's so many misconceptions. So the new book, which hopefully will be out next year, will be about demystifying, addressing those stereotypes, but also addressing some of the common things that I see in yoga to make people understand about yoga. Because I don't think I've seen a book that really, you know, if someone's a beginner, you know, it's like, what book can I pick up that will give me a good overview of that? But also it'll help yoga teachers as well to address some of those concerns that our potential practitioners will see, whether through your advertising or when you're faced with those questions. So that's what's coming out. In the meantime, I'm running a 3-day yoga retreat in Kent on the 6th
at the Quaves. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I ran it there last year, and then we named it the Noble Retreat. All the attendees last year, should we call it the Noble Retreat? Because it's more than yoga. You give us so much more. So it's yoga for everybody. You can come and lie on your mat the entire weekend if you want to, but there's so much that you can do. It's a wonderful venue, and you'll meet like-minded people. The retreat, as I like to say now, is not about retreating from your life. It will give you the skills that will help you to address what you're going on in life, so that you can have a more easeful and joyful life, to come home to the wonderful and great human being that you are, just as you are.
Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.